Hi, Paul Ballou, Chief Data and Analytics Officer with D&B, and I'm delighted that you've chosen to spend a few moments with us to talk about the state of the U.S. economy. As we've covered in prior months, each and every cycle, we spend some time talking about what's going on with small business, the overall health of what we're seeing in business in the U.S. economy, and then what's happening on the job front. In the last few months, we've been struggling with this issue of what's going on in terms of underlying pace of growth and the fact that the U.S. economy, by most measures, has underperformed. So where are we coming out of July? Well, pretty much where we've been. We're continuing to see the small business sector of the U.S. economy go sideways. We continue to see this critically important category not have the challenges that we saw in 2008 and 2009 with regards to financial pressures, but our small business health index remains very uneven and for the most part pretty flat. Why is that important? Well, that index leads the U.S. economy by about 3 to 4 quarters. And with small business health continuing in that roughly 90 range, that's our index number, we anticipate we'll see economic growth for the year below 2% in the U.S., and we may have to take down our forecast in 2015. Having said that, one of the more dominant trends we've seen in the Small Business Health Index in the last year or so has been the fact that while the top-line numbers have underperformed, I can give you some areas of hope beneath those top-line numbers. We're still seeing some sectors of the U.S. economy surge, and we're seeing some sectors surge in a way that is contributing to positive gains on the employment front. In fact, one of the great riddles of the last few months has been the fact that payroll employment has performed much better than expectations while the overall U.S. economy and the measures of the U.S. economy have lagged. Well, how do you explain that? Tap into what we do in terms of our leading indices and our ability to look at individual verticals. And when you do so, that unevenness in the economy comes screaming out. We're seeing categories that are starting to pick up the pace or categories that are continuing to accelerate from where they've been over the last couple of years. Important categories like the business services category. That category has led the recovery throughout 2010, 2011, and so on, and in fact right now is our strongest category in terms of our overall health and indices that we track. Guess what? When we look at payroll employment growth in the U.S., that category is also leading the payroll employment gains. On the flip side, when we look at categories that are lagging in our Small Business Health Index, guess what? They're lagging also on the employment front. What does that all mean for small business? A very uneven pattern of growth is likely to persist. And we at D&B are very focused on helping you find those areas of opportunity and acceleration. So prepare hopefully for some acceleration as the year draws to a close. We're keeping our fingers crossed that the U.S. economy will pick up the pace. But when we look at our Small Business Health Index, we expect that pattern of growth to remain uneven. A few other things to point out this month. Payroll employment growth, as I just alluded to, continues to be relatively strong. In fact, we're anticipating about 235,000 payroll jobs to be reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's following a trend where we're seeing employment growth closer to 250,000, and we believe probably north of that number in the back end of this year. The other thing I want to remind you of is that while the U.S. economy continues to underperform in terms of top-line growth, continues to have all this unevenness and choppiness, which makes it difficult from a business planning standpoint, the broader measures we have in the private sector remain very positive. That tells us that the recovery remains resilient and that at some juncture, when top-line growth begins to accelerate, business investment will take off. So we're continuing to be hopeful that we see things overperform our expectations, but right now, given all of our tracking measures, we do anticipate that the rest of the year, while accelerating, will net out to be a growth pattern of about 2%, and that'll be a dampened environment from what we expected in January and early in the year. Having said that, there are areas of growth, there are areas of opportunity. And please come to us, please work with us as we can help you in your business plan find those areas of strong growth and opportunity in the U.S. economy. Thank you for spending some time with us this month. We look forward to giving you an update next month as we continue to track the direction of the overall economy and hopefully help you with your business planning requirements. Have a nice day. Once again, thank you for your time.